So looking at the top moments of 2023, it, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I know some of you think I'm a Debbie Downer just for Debbie Downer's sake. I promise I'm not, but this was difficult. This was difficult. Like it was just not an easy list to put together. There have been, in my opinion, in terms of notable moments, more lows than highs. I even thought about doing a low and a high for each of those. But I thought, yeah, you know what? Let's roll into 2024 with some positivity. We know the negatives, okay? You don't need me to recap the loss to Texas State or losing in the second round of the men's basketball tournament again, or not having either basketball team go past the second round. You know, you and I both know that there were some lowlights. I could talk about Trey Richardson either tying or breaking Shea Langelier's record for RBI in a postseason baseball game. So not only does arguably your best player at the time, Trey Richardson, best returning player, go to TCU, your biggest rival, but then he also breaks a record set by one of your all-time greats in Shea Langelier. So plenty that I could choose from in terms of bad moments in 2023. But let's look at the good ones. And this was not easy to find, but then again, once I got my list in there, I had to create a stipulation to leave a big moment out. And I'm going to talk about that right now. The moment I'm going to leave out that I don't have a great reason for, and you guys are probably going to be a little pissed about it, is I'm leaving out the acrobatics and tumbling national championship. I am. Okay. And it is because they are too good. They do it every year. They do it every year. And that is a compliment, guys. This team is obviously the best program in America. I don't remember where I was when they won the national championship again. So that's why I'm not putting it on there. In fact, I do think of it as kind of like a next echelon. Like if we did the top moments of 2021, there would be an obvious number one, men's basketball winning the national championship. So that championship that goes above, okay? That is a number higher than one. And I truly mean that. Okay. So let's go into the top five here. Okay. Just start at five. There were some ones that I did think, like, my first thoughts were, okay, that's definitely going to be a top five, that didn't. Okay. So we'll have an honorable mention or two. But number five is with baseball. I know you guys weren't expecting me to talk a lot of Baylor baseball in the year in review here in 2023, but it is from April 15th, a glorious tax day for you guys, although it was a Saturday. And the baseball team won over Texas 10-9 in one of the most exciting games probably ever played at Baylor Ballpark, certainly in recent memory, and for one of the worst teams we've seen in recent memory. Now, part of this has to do with the context of the baseball team. I'm a big Mitch Thompson fan. I loved the hire. I am really happy about the direction that he is going to bring this program in. I do believe in him. Now, I will say for baseball versus something like basketball or football, it takes longer for a school like Baylor. It's just kind of the nature of the sport in general is stacked against a school like Baylor. And that's not an overall, like, just excuse for why they haven't made the College World Series since 2005. But it's just, with the resources in there and the money that actually goes into it and the amount of coaches you can hire and how you recruit these kids and the amount of scholarships you have, it's not easy to do for a school like Baylor. I absolutely believe that. And so this year, 2023, they don't have a good season. It's one of the worst in recent memory. They're the only team that doesn't go to the Big 12 championship series tournament, I guess is what it is, up in Arlington. And it's just a rough first year for Coach Thompson and a very Island of Misfit Toys feel to the Baylor baseball team. That will get better. And one of the great signs was that win over UT, which was a top 10 team all season long. I think the preseason number one in the nation. Really good Longhorn team. And it looked like a disaster. They had lost on Friday night, and then they give up 4 in the first inning. So before they even bat, they're down 4-0. They end the first inning up 5-4. This is just a nuts game. UT takes a commanding lead back. It's 9-5 going into the ninth inning. And Baylor just makes some magic happen. I think it was a couple hit batsmen, a couple of walks. They start to bring some runs home. Texas brings in their closer, and Hunter Toplansky has the walk-off 2-run single, 10-9. 5 runs in the first, 5 runs in the ninth. Bears win one of the wildest college baseball games of the year. And it was just such an uplifting thing because you knew these kids just worked their butts off, man. They really did. And it was just a struggle for them. It was a struggle for Coach Thompson. It was a struggle for us to watch at times. But you knew the effort was there, which I can't say about some other Baylor teams this year. You knew the effort was there, and you saw it every game, and it finally paid off there. That was a long time to put over that. Number 4, I'm cheating a little bit. It's going to be 2 moments, and that is 2, count them, 2 women's basketball wins over top 5 teams. And you'll remember that came in the last month of the year. I almost picked their win over Iowa State back in February. Which was kind of splitting hairs with that one, but they lost 2 weeks later to Iowa State. But that was a big win for the program where they were really shorthanded, went up to Ames and won that game. But I'm going to go with the turning the page into a really, really solid team this year and 2 top 5 victories. We mentioned it in the first segment, but blew out Utah in that game when Utah was number 4 and then take care of business on Saturday in Austin. And it's 2 top 5 wins without trailing for a single second. That is incredible. Incredible. Number 3, I'm going to men's basketball, and this is back in February or late January. I think it was late January, where the men's basketball team beat Kansas at the Farrell for the 3rd year in a row. And I'm just going to say that again. Men's basketball beat Kansas at the Farrell for the 3rd year in a row. If you graduated around the time of me or before me, I graduated back in 2019, that seemed an unfathomable sentence. And Baylor had some good basketball teams, but you were thinking, I don't know, man. Kansas is always going to be good. I don't know. It doesn't matter how good Baylor is. I don't know if they could beat them in the same place 3 years in a row. They just did it. There should have been 4 years in a row with 2020, but they did it. And what was so key for this was it was such an up and down month. I do believe it was the end of January when they did it because that win put them at 5-4 or 4-4 in the Big 12. Because remember, they started 0-3, and they had, worked their way back up. I think this was somewhere in like the 20 versus 7 range or something like that in terms of the rankings. And it was the classic Bill Self gif or video of him saying, what does he say? They're just better than us, man. They're just so much better than us. And it certainly looked that way on that night. And then, of course, they had the big halftime lead at Fog Allen. We're not going to talk about that. But just any win over Kansas is still such a big deal, even for the expectations in this program. And so that one is number 3 for me on the year. And when we come back here, we're going to go over the top 2, the very top 2 moments in Baylor athletics this season. Moving forward to the top 2 moments in Baylor athletics in the year 2023. I'm going back to men's basketball. And it is a game that they won, but it was not that moment of them winning that's going to be up there. It is February. They're facing Texas Tech at home Saturday or Sunday. It might have been a Sunday. And about 5 minutes into the game, our conquering hero returned. Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua came back on the court after essentially 52 weeks of intensive rehab after a really scary injury that looked like it was going to end his athletic career entirely. Beat all the odds against it. Obviously had that great testimony talking about his fight through this and got to take the court at the Farrell Center against Texas Tech to this just outstanding ovation.
Baylor family.
Oh, Man, I still get chills. I still get chills. I recorded that video that you saw or heard there, and I wish I had gotten that 3-pointer because that was his first three back. It was incredible. First off, we didn't really know he could even shoot threes. He gets this straightaway look and he's pulling it. And I'm like, man, he's got to have some confidence. And he hits it. And it's one of the loudest I've ever heard the Farrell Center. I'm almost getting choked up talking about this. Like, this was such a great moment. Like, it was such the kind of this beauty of sports moment. I mean, we all have seen Everyday John, around campus or in the community, or even the way he presents himself on television. He is like a true stand-up guy, just someone you are so proud to have with Baylor across their chest. If you're a Baylor fan or you're a Baylor alum, like, you're just so proud to see that this guy is one of the ones representing our university that we love so much. And he's just the quintessential example of one of those guys that does everything right. Not that Baylor's had the opposite of that under Scott Drew. That's not the case at all. But we've seen his progression. We have seen him grow up. And you hear all the stories about the offseason before 2020, 2021, when they won the national championship, that offseason before, where he had redshirted and just practiced with those guys all year long the year before. And he was the one that was getting them out to the weight room. And even when the gyms were closed, doing all the weight training he possibly could and putting up shots. And then he's such a huge player for them in 21-22. He's the defensive player of the year in the conference. And it's that game against UT goes down. It looks bad. You find out after the game, it's pretty bad. Then you find out later on, it's really bad. Like, not quite life and death stuff, but I mean, he was in some serious trouble there in that operation with the nerve damage and all that. Like, he could have been compromised the rest of his life. And then we again see him shooting from the chair, right? And you're like, boy, you gotta love this kid's spirit. And then you hear about the operation and everything, and you're like, I don't know if he's ever going to play again. And then he comes back in February, just a year after that, after almost completely restructuring his knee. And he's out there and he's making an impact. And I don't know what impact he's going to have the rest of this season on the court, but he is absolutely a difference maker for that team. And he was last year, and that's why that moment was so uplifting when he was back, and the place went nuts. I got teared up watching it. I'm getting almost teared up talking about it now. Just can't explain enough how great that moment was. And it's only number 2 for this year, because number 1, because I tried to get it more of on the field stuff. So Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua might be my favorite, and hopefully will have a bigger impact than this next one. But Baylor football, as bad a year as they had, as forgettable a year as they had, one unforgettable thing was they did have the largest comeback in school history against UCF, and things looked really bleak. They were down 21-0, like 8 offensive plays into the game for UCF. It's 28-7, then it's 35-7. They have a fumble recovery for a touchdown for the Knights that shouldn't have even happened, and they went to review and they still upheld it. It was awful, and it was just bad, and we were like really, really teetering towards really, really bad. And look, it got to bad, trust me. But the fight they showed in that game was just an incredible thing to watch. I mean, not only the effort that they put into it, but just the craziness of it all. Like, oh my God, breaks are going Baylor's way. Caden Jenkins strip 6 touchdown to make it, I think at that point, a 2-point game. It's like, holy crap. These guys kind of out of nowhere, what was going to be the lowest point of the season, absolutely balled out. I mean, this is a week after getting just their doors blown off by Texas at home. And then they come back and it's Blake Shapen's first game back, and they don't get phased. They have a couple of great touchdown drives, 2-point conversions, the strip 6, and then the field goal to go ahead and win it and to hold them off. I mean, it was incredible. They're down 35-7 midway through the third quarter, and they rattle off 29 unanswered to win the game. the greatest comeback in the history of the football program. That's got to be number one for me. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. Tomorrow, we're going to go over the Foster Pavilion and the opening of that arena and what this basketball season has been like so far and what that should be like going forward. Thank you once again. Let me know if I got anything wrong in this top 5 list or where you were for any of those moments. And be sure to follow along tomorrow. This has been and always will be Locked On Baylor.